Yeah.
All right. So,
Okay.
are we ready to move on to 4? Am I reading 4?
You can read 4,
Go-
Abby.
go for it.
For
Okay.
it. Sorry,
So, Amendment 4 is the amendment to limit government interference with abortion.
government interference. Wow.
So, here's the ballot summary. No law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. This amendment does not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. The proposed amendment would result in significantly more abortions and fewer live births per year in Florida. The increase in abortions could be even greater if the amendment invalidates laws requiring parental consent before minors undergo abortions and those ensuring only licensed physicians perform abortions. There is also uncertainty about whether the amendment will require the state to subsidize abortions with public funds. Litigation to resolve those and other uncertainties will result in additional costs to the state government and state courts that will negatively impact the state budget. An increase in abortions may negatively affect the growth of state and local revenues over time. Because the fiscal impact of increased abortions on state and local revenues and costs cannot be estimated with precision, the total impact of the proposed amendment is indeterminate. The financial impact of this amendment cannot be determined due to ambiguities and uncertainties surrounding the amendment's impact. A yes vote would enshrine access to abortion with no restrictions in the Florida Constitution. A no vote would keep Florida laws regarding abortion as they currently are.
Okay. So I'm going to give a little bit of backstory on how this amendment got to the forefront of what we're dealing with. So for a very long time in the state of Florida, I don't know how long, but a decent amount of time, we had a restriction on abortion after, not a decent amount of time, after Roe v. Wade was overturned. We implemented a restriction on abortion at 15 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So no abortions are allowed beyond 15 weeks. In the last legislative session, no, not this year, last year in 2023, a bill was put forward to change that to 6 weeks. From what I hear, rumor on the street is nobody thought the bill would pass, but it did. And I personally believe that the governor pushed it through because he was running for president and he wanted to pad his presidential resume and show that he's very strict on abortion. Because of that, the knee-jerk reaction was it went to court, it went cuckoo bananas, the state exploded, and an organization formed to now give us this. So just remember, legislatures, bills have consequences, and now what went from 15 weeks with you still having the ability to change things could now go to up to birth with you have no ability. So good job.
Sarcasm noted.
Yeah, sarcasm hopefully noted. Now, that being said, personally, my personal stances, I'm incredibly pro-life. I believe that life begins at conception, and each life is ordained with a plan and a purpose by an almighty creator. I do, however, understand that politics is downstream of culture, and until we change our culture, this issue will be a divisive wedge and will cause a lot of problems until we come to a culture that demands no abortion because it's horrific. That's my personal opinion. So there's the personal and then there's the political conversation.
Well, the political apparatus has desensitized us to human life, just in general.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to say it's a clump of cells, it's this, it's that, or the other. And my personal views on this is I was a single mother at 18 from a domestic abuse relationship. I gave birth 2 weeks before my 19th birthday. I was in a horrific situation that I don't recommend for anyone, but I still would not have aborted my baby. Like my parents told me when I told them that I was pregnant, unmarried, 18 years old, get rid of it. I couldn't do that. Everything in my body was like, no, this is my child. What are you talking about? It was an accident. Like I wasn't planning on trying to get pregnant, but this is where we are and the world's a better place because she's in it. And I look at it like, hey, if I could do it struggling at 18 years old with really no financial support, no parental support, things of that nature, it's bringing a life into the world is an amazing, beautiful thing. And sometimes, I do sit back and kind of go like, I'm thankful of that experience because it taught me to grow up really fast. And I probably would not have been as successful and living the great life that I have if I didn't have her at such a young age, because it got me to grow up really fast. But that's just my, that's my personal aspects of how it affects me personally, because I was given that choice and I could have easily made that choice, and was encouraged to do so. So it takes guts and it takes strength to find yourself in a situation where you made a mistake and that there's consequences for it for the rest of your life. And
Good and bad.
Good and bad, exactly. I mean, this world is definitely a better place because my daughter is in it. No, hands down. And so the biggest thing for me with this is the definitions. There are no clear definitions on what these words means as far as like healthcare provider. What does that mean? Does that mean your podiatrist can tell you? Does that mean that a medical assistant can tell you? What does that mean? Also, viability is an undefined term.
There's no scientific term for viability.
No.
That's not attached to a certain amount of weeks. It's not attached to anything.
Right. And they're saying, viability, we think of it as that can live outside of the womb without...
I mean, that's the logical process, but what does that mean?
Right. Because technically any child isn't viable because they need to be cared and nurtured for after they're born.
You can't just... bleh.
Right. If you don't take care of it, there will be the baby will suffer. So is that considered viability?
I don't know. 2 years old? I don't know.
Right.
I have a question, Abby.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused. This is for both of you, all of us, but since you're looking at it, if you could help me
I'm actually looking at the contributions to the committee that filed this petition.
Yes.
So I'll get to that after your question.
All right. So it says here, hold on. This amendment does not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor is born. So it sounds like
a notification is different from consent.
Ah, okay. That's the change.
Yes.
Because right now you have to have consent.
You have to have parental consent.
Yes.
Before or after?
Before. It says in the
before a minor has an abortion.
Yeah, it does say before.
Does say
yeah.
But there's a difference. You're right. There is a difference between notification.
This would be the only...
Is that leaving like a voicemail message and saying, well, you were notified?
Yeah.
This would be the only medical procedure in the state of Florida that would be legal to perform on a minor without parental consent. This would be the only medical procedure.
Which is going to increase human trafficking.
I was just going to say, which we are one of the number one, areas for human trafficking. So this would then make it very easy for them to stay in business and less downtime.
Yes. And
so...
Yes, let's go.
So if you go to the Florida elections website, they have the ballot initiatives. They have that's where the link to the full text for each of these comes from. They have the sponsor, and you can click on the sponsor, and it takes you to their Division of Elections page where you can go into their campaign documents. It can go into their filings, and just I pulled all contributions, like all time periods. And I'm only 3 months in because I think this started in April of 23, which was the close of the legislative session last year. They immediately started this. And like literally in the first 3 months, over $1 million poured in from a whole bunch of different Planned Parenthood chapters. Mm-hmm. Florida Rising Together, which is like a far left progressive political action committee here in the state. There's a whole bunch of ACLU foundations that poured money into this. SEIU out in New York City, just a whole bunch. But the Planned Parenthood, I mean, they have consistently just scrolling down. And there's a lot of grassroots, like $10 here, $25 here. So, there are people out there that they want this. They wanted this to get on the ballot.
They want this to get on the ballot, but it's being sold to people. This is the problem. It's being sold to people as it's emotional because, oh my gosh, look at the title. Amendment to limit government interference with abortion. That's emotionally triggering right there for someone who believes in the right to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And you're hitting on, especially because we have a lot of retirees down here, right? So Florida is obviously huge. We have a huge influx of families, but there's a lot of retirees. And I got asked the question today by someone, would this, is this a conversation at like a retirement home that you might be going to visit to talk to, campaign at or wherever? And I was like, yes, because you have to think about the age group of those women in that retirement home are the ones who lived through the 60s and the 70s
They were
and
the boomers.
fought to get that abortion passed, to get Roe v. Wade, and they celebrate, and they've had the right to have an abortion. It's a women's rights thing that they have fought for, and they look at it as now their rights are being taken away. Even though, obviously, they're all past the age of needing one. They are looking at it for their daughters and granddaughters, great-granddaughters, I don't know. And they're like, they look at it as an emotional regression and a political rights regression. And so if we understand that that's what they're looking at it is, then we can talk about that and say, okay, but because a lot of the things is women are going to go to have back alley abortions and they're going to have this and they're well, you know what?
Well,
What does this mean?
that-
Healthcare provider.
That comes down to the safe, legal, and rare, right? That's what I grew up with, is that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. That,
Not up to the point of birth.
Correct. So it's like your last, you have no other options. And, I keep hearing and seeing these, these crazy commercials.
Oh
on
my gosh, my
TV.
kids are asking me now because we have a vote no sign in our front yard, and they were watching something and a commercial popped up for a vote yes commercial, and they're like, "Well, we're voting no on that, Mom. We saw the sign." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am not ready to have this conversation. You guys, you're 8." Like, no, I was like, yeah, well, there's a lot of people who disagree on things.
Yeah, that it's like, a doctor can go to jail for helping a woman trying to save her life.
That's not true.
None of that is true.
None of that is happening. And also, by the way, there's not, for the record, I'm going to just put the record out there, not a single sane person, which we're all sane here.
I'd like to think I am.
I mean, sometimes.
Sometimes
Most of
the
the
people
time,
I have to deal with
comparatively.
make me feel a little crazy. But.
Yeah. But a woman who's having an ectopic pregnancy and has to go in for a procedure to have that taken care of, or a woman who's had a miscarriage and has to go in for a DNC, those are not abortions. And anybody who's telling you that the Republicans are trying to stop women from having health care because they're having an ectopic pregnancy or they've had a miscarriage, are stopping women from having women's health care because of these things, is not true. It's lies. Those are lies. Because abortion, by definition, is the killing of a fetus. It is a stopping the life of a fetus. Outside forces stopping the life of a fetus. Fetus also means baby in Latin. So, baby. So, by definition, abortion is that. So, ectopic pregnancies, miscarriages, those are not, no one's not getting care because they're having that. And the doctor's like, no, sorry, I can't perform an abortion because I'll get arrested. What planet are you all living on? Come on. Freaking idiots. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's two things that are also like national news that kind of dives into this that people will understand. So first of all, there was an article that came out. Republico, not Publico, but one
ProPublica.
Republica.
ProPublica.
I can't.
Struggling
can't.
tonight, y'all.
I even had coffee. There was an article saying that a Georgia woman lost her life because she was unable to get abortion care. Now, the evidence is that is wrong. She was given chemical abortion medication, missed her appointment, and got septic. And died because of that.
She died from a botched abortion, essentially.
She didn't go in to get the DNC in time, and the remnants became septic.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, don't get me started on chemical on like the.
So now they're highlighting this and tying it to this in Florida. Basically saying that if we don't pass this, that is what's going to happen to all of our women in Florida if we don't pass this and say yes.
Wait, okay. She got the pills sent to her. She picked them up from the from the pharmacy, goes home, takes the abortion medication to abort her child at home, which, by the way, I think is one of the most insane, dangerous things for people to do. Like,
insensitive.
Insensitive, but like just dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
you're just gonna have a medical procedure done by a pill at home by yourself with no one
And
there.
there's a lot of contradictions with these
Contraindications.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with these
These
with
pills.
these medications.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
It's just the concept of that is mind-boggling. So she does that, and then she doesn't go in to have the remnants removed,
She misses her appointment.
and she dies. And now they're trying to say that that's going to happen because she didn't do what she was supposed to do in order to have care.
Right.
It's her own care.
Which is part of our whole thing here in Florida is that it's like you should be educated. You should have to understand what you're going through and what it is.
There's a
and-
lot of laws. There's a rant that I go on all the time.
Yeah, I love what you have to say because it takes the emotion out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it takes whether it's, women's rights argument, the religious argument, it's let's treat this like similar businesses.
Like a medical procedure.
Yeah.
If you want to. And then, for those who have never heard my list, I think some of these I've pulled from other people
Yep.
and put together,
Yep.
but there should be a waiting period. But Florida doesn't have waiting periods. Some states have them. You have to wait 24, 48, sometimes 72 hours.
You
go
have
in
to give the information, get the information, absorb it, and then come back.
and come back. So I think we should have a waiting period. I think we should have full informed consent, meaning that you have to sit down with a counselor and they have to, by law, walk you through the process of what is going to happen to your body. We're going to insert this. This is what's going to happen. This is what happens to the heart. This is what happens to the brain. This is what happens to all of the things, because you should have the knowledge as a patient of what is going to happen to your body, if you want to call it your body. Yes, it's another body, but anyway. Full informed consent that you sign. And if the doctor does not have that, the doctor is then, yes, liable for not giving you just like any other informed consent that you get for a procedure.
Just think of what you have to sign off at,
to
a
have your
public-
gallbladder removed.
or picking up prescriptions at the pharmacy. You have to sign the little screen that I've received instruction or guidance from the pharmacist on these medications.
Mhm.
Yep.
You have to do that. I have to do that to pick up my freaking thyroid medication
Yeah.
every month. Why don't they require that for this?
And then it has
you're
like,
literally ending a life, and
Yes.
they're not requiring.
and the
this.
woman, your body, when you go, it's not just like taking a medication. You don't just take a
No,
pill and
I
all of
mean-
a sudden you're good. Obviously, she took a pill thinking she's fine, and then she didn't. This is a medical procedure that is done on your body.
Yeah.
Come on, people. So I would love to see that. Mandatory mental health counseling required before and after the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Full liability for the doctor to swear that they know that the woman's not being pressured. Some type of liability there. I don't know what the correct legally is for that, but this would help with human trafficking. This would help with minors who are being pressured by their boyfriends, by their parents to do this, to make sure that it is the patient's decision, not anyone else's. And then finally, a death certificate and the remains to be disposed of. This was one that you talked about a lot. So to be disposed of the way that any other human remains are supposed to be disposed.
Mm-hmm.
So no selling.
No selling
Right.
of the remains.
Yeah, once you take the organ harvesting off the table, once you take the fetal cell tissue off the table, you limit
Nobody will want to put money
the
into
medical
this.
uses for
You
it.
think Planned Parenthood's dumping money into this because
Every single month, hundreds of thousands of dollars
'Cause
was
they
donated by
want it
various
just 'cause
Planned
they wanna kill
Parenthoods every single month into this committee.
You think they're doing it just
For
because
over
they
a
want to
year.
kill babies? No, they're doing it because their ROI is going to be insane if they can get this passed. here.
Right, because a lot of people don't understand that the abortion industry is ran by the medical pharmacy industry. So all of that they're able to dissect and use those fetal tissues and all of that kind of stuff to create medications.
Vaccines.
And vaccines are a big thing about it. I used to have this printout that was I probably still have it somewhere, what isn't a vaccine, like formaldehyde and monkey embryos and
calf heart blood.
yeah, all of this kind of stuff that you're you would never inject in yourself
Yeah.
in a million years if you saw it. And so it's this is where that comes from. So if you take that off the table
And
for
in that ingredient is ingredients that are the same that are human fetal tissue cells.
yes.
So
Especially the COVID vaccine.
the COVID vaccines
was
have a
it was
lot.
in there too.
MMR.
Yep.
chickenpox.
Yep. So that eliminates all of that. And then there was another thing that I saw that was very interesting. It was I saw a couple women do it actually. They were videoing themselves and they called an abortion clinic where there's no limits on abortion. I think it came up because of the fact that Trump was fact checked on his debate.
Quote.
Right, that there's nowhere in the country that it's legal to kill a baby or have an abortion up to birth. So a couple women called a couple of these clinics, said that they were 32, 34 weeks pregnant, and they literally described the procedure over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, we would inject medication into the fetus's heart to get it to stop pumping, and then you would be dilated, and then you would basically be given you would have to give a partial birth. So is what I didn't understand is it's like, even if you say that you're going to have an abortion or killing your baby, you still have to go through the birthing process.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you advocate to keep that baby alive and give it to somebody who actually wants it?
There's a lot of people who want babies.
Already have to go through the birthing process.
It's insane, but it's happening.
Exactly.
It's happening.
That's what I'm saying.
I spoke to a woman whose daughter is a nurse in one of the states that they allows it, and she sees it. She's had her friends have had patients who about 39 weeks.
That is the desensitization of life in general, and that scares the hell out of me.
This is personal to me. I was born 7 weeks early. I spent 30 days in the hospital when I was born.
I didn't know
Like,
that.
yeah.
I was sick when I was born too.
And like I was fully developed. Like I didn't have lung problems. I was just born 7 weeks early. I was 4 pounds 1 ounce when I was born.
So tiny.
Like my mom has pictures of me in my baby album. Like the preemie baby diaper in the hospital was so big on me. And to think that like they would allow women to abort a baby that can be born. I mean, there are babies now that can survive
like 21 weeks.
22 weeks. I mean, so like the fact that this is being allowed
when that is even being discussed and debated is that it's downstream of culture, and our culture's very, very, very sad.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, this is a hard issue for everyone, and this is how they change our society very quickly, is by creating laws and amendments like this, constitutional amendments, whatever you want to call them, to continue to desensitize us for global control. I mean, I know that sounds like crazy,
okay, tinfoil. No, I'm just kidding.
But that's exactly.
We just took a left turn.
I know, but this is exactly how it starts.
Go to the crop circle and go right. No,
right.
Sorry.
It's like it's just a complete desensitization. It's it's calling one thing something when it's something completely different. This is not women's reproductive rights. That's
or
not
care. This is not women's
care.
reproductive care. I got a survey asking me, "Do you support women's reproductive care?" And I was like, "Yeah." That's a trap question. That's like, when did you stop beating your wife?
Right. And thank goodness to the to some of the organizations in Florida, because they are trying to combat some of this
misinformation
for abortion commercials and stuff. I have seen one like that we spend like almost $1 billion, I think it was, on reproductive care for women that pregnancies and their families that are in a situation that maybe have an unexpected pregnancy. There are resources money available to you,
and there are families who want to adopt.
Right. And this is not the only option.
Yeah.
Killing a baby is not the only option. It should be the last option possible, and you will feel like I've had so many friends that have had abortions that it has destroyed their lives.
It changes. It
changes you.
It does.
It definitely changes you.
I want to say too that shoot, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say so, and then I really think that but going back to the specific thing here is, and what our control over it is educating people about the issues. And if you're talking to somebody who you think might be more pro-abortion, they'll say pro-choice, but pro-abortion, a way to discuss it with them is concerns over the word viability. Say, well, do you support abortion up to the point of birth? Most people do not. There are more who do now, because now that's the left's talking point.
Mm-hmm.
But most moderate Democrats or moderate people are like, no, not really. They go back to the safe, legal, and rare, up to 15 weeks or up to the second trimester, or whatever it may be. However they want to term it. Say, okay, so remind them, say, this says viability. If you cannot define viability scientifically, or it's enshrined in the law, then it's going to be up to anybody's decision. And that's a concern. And then anybody can determine it. That's a concern. So bringing it back to what you can walk out with this and talk to people about, and say, and it is very concerning that a minor at high school could go to the school nurse and say, I'm pregnant, and that school nurse could take her to have an abortion without the parents consenting to it. They might find out right beforehand. By the way, Mom, this is what I'm doing. Click. And now the parents, that girl goes home from school having her whole life completely changed, and the parents now they have to deal with the aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are serious concerns. So if we want to bring it back to how do we talk to people about this, those are some key talking points that you can walk away from it if you're talking to people who are more, leaning towards more the pro-choice. And say, listen, if you are more pro-choice or pro-abortion in this case, this isn't the way to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
We can
It's
say no
poorly
to this.
defined.
It's poorly defined. This is not the way to do it. We can go back to our legislatures and say 6 weeks doesn't work for us as a state. I want my legislature to write a bill to push this. And there are ways to change. We have the power to change the laws in our state, both through this as well as through lobbying our legislatures. So if we don't like this becomes enshrined in the law. We will become a destination point for people to come and have abortions. Is that what we want Florida to be known for? Come smoke some pot and have an abortion.
Well, this is how they destroy the red states,
Yes,
right?
this is how they do it. That is exactly what they're doing.
Illegal immigrants.
Well,
Well,
we keep
yeah.
shipping them out. So they realize that didn't work so well.
They keep coming back, though.
They keep coming back. But so, all right, should we move on? I hate that one.
Yeah, like I said, it's about the definition of it. There's always going to be opposite sides, and we understand that this is a hot button issue, but for anybody who is the best way to it's not properly defined. And
Let's vote no and go back to the drawing board with our newly elected legislatures
and
in
please look
2025.
at the full text of the Amendment 4. It's like literally a paragraph. There's like the medical marijuana one, I think, was 3 pages.
Yeah.
This one is like, that's it. And then it just opens the door.
Yeah.
And I believe that if we're going to go to a spiritual side of things, I believe that there will be judgment if we.
Oh yeah, for sure. God hates
this
us. God hates us.
That will be
when
that's
it
a
comes to
no.
this.
That's pretty much it's essentially, listen, I'm Jewish. It's essentially what the Israelites did.
They sacrificed their children to Moloch.
Sacrificed their
Yep.
children to Moloch, and God was not happy and punished them for a really, really long time. Till now. Still being punished. So let's not do that. Let's just learn from history.
Let's learn to celebrate life and understand that not everybody is born in the perfect circumstances, and we all our country is so great that everybody has amazing opportunities, no matter how you were conceived or who your parents are.
Amen.
Amen.